tried to
No, what
present.
happened was the judges in these cases, because we had the original uh, federal court and then the appeals for the federal court, and in both judgments that were made, they basically took what we call judicial notice. They didn't proclaim it as such, but that's essentially what happened. They stated that they went with the information that was provided by the scientific experts of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and they did not consider any of the expert um, reports that came from my report and other reports that was submitted by the lawyers for the Universal Ostrich Farms. So they did not look at it, and unfortunately, the in the arguments for judging, well, what's the risk to society versus what's the damage that could be done to the farm, and they're weighing, which is as they should be doing, where is there the greater hazard or benefit? And as it turns out, they did not even consider the arguments that were put forward by the Universal Ostrich Farm with respect to certainly the science. And actually, there's even questions on the legal obligations because people don't understand the World Organization for Animal Health provides guidelines. These are not laws. And in the guidelines, it's up to the individual countries to decide whether or not they're going to adopt those. Now, there are trade implications. And what happens is we try to go with the guidelines that's, with agreements with these other countries. And so the World Organization for Animal Health, when you have highly pathogenic influenza virus, not low pathogenicity virus, H5N1, the recommendation is that the zone would not be declared disease-free where this outbreak has occurred until either you do uh, the culling process where you kill any animal that's in contact with the diseased animals, and you wait 1 month, and if there's no other evidence, then you can go forward and uh, now have trade, basically with the official stamp that this is disease free. Now that used to be 3 months prior to 2025. So it's interesting that they actually shortened the period after the stamping out policy. But the idea is that within 2 weeks, we don't expect that any any further emergence is unlikely. So if you're disease free for a month, that's okay. Now, if you don't do that, and this is clearly an option provided through the World Organization for Animal Health, and you let it burn out, that means you let the herd or flock die, and any survivors, if it's disease free for a 1 year period, then you're back to the disease free zone status. Now, as it turns out, here in British Columbia, we have many different zones, and the the bulk of the poultry industry is actually here in southern uh, western British Columbia. And where the ostriches are on the Universal Ostrich Farm, it's in its own zone. So what goes on in that zone does not really affect the trade of poultry products in the other zones. The only situation I'm aware of where there could be an issue is where you have some agreements between countries that are respect to provinces. So in the case of British Columbia, it could affect our training for poultry products with Mexico and with Russia. And that's about, the major potential. Now, during this entire time, you have to understand that we've had 533 outbreaks in the last few years. We've never had a disease-free status as a country, and for some of the provinces, uh, not until just really quite recently, right? Because we haven't had an outbreak in Canada of H5N1 on a farm since actually January of 15th of this year. So we are coming into another season where we'll have migration of the birds, and it's possible that we'll see this. But the reality is, during the last few years, trade has not been reduced with the H5N1 pandemic. Certainly for Canadian poultry products, it's actually increased during this period. So I don't buy the argument that our trade is being adversely affected by this.